Florida. If you don't live here, you might know us for our beaches, our resorts, our golf courses. But that's not the Florida I grew up with. Behind the stereotypes, there's another Florida. A hidden Florida. And it's full of surprises. My name is Alex Fries. I'm a science educator and a sixth-generation Floridian. As a kid, I spent a lot of time in Florida's wildlands. But even during my lifetime, many of these areas have changed or disappeared, and often kids don't even know they exist. For our wildlands to survive, the next generation of Floridians needs to know about them, love them, and protect them. That's why I'm taking 3 high school students on an expedition through the wildest places in Palm Beach County on Florida's southeast coast. 70 miles in 7 days, hiking, biking, and kayaking from the headwaters of the Loxahatchee River to the Atlantic Ocean. The most amazing thing about this expedition is that these are public lands. They're ours, and young people are going to decide what happens to them. I'm not sure how these students will feel about the wilderness we see this week, but I'm hoping they'll fall in love, just like I did. I was a little nervous starting the day. We had been planning this expedition for months, but this was my first time actually meeting the students.
The main thing that made me want to apply is that I heard it could go on my resume.
I've never camped in my life before. I thought it would be a great opportunity to go out in the wild and learn and explore new things.
I did love the challenge of it. Freshman year, I was about 300 pounds. I didn't like people having low expectations. I wanted to apply because it was like a checkup for me to see how I was doing.
Physically, this was going to be the toughest day of the expedition. We started at 5:30 a.m. with a 4-mile hike through gorgeous flatwoods. After the hike, we met up with our bikes and saddled up for 16 more miles on gravel roads. Oh my gosh, he's so pretty. You guys! Look at him. He will not bite you. I'm holding his head.
My favorite part of the day was absolutely the snake. They are such beautiful, incredibly interesting animals. It was really cool to share that with the students.
Oh man.
All right, so you can look at his head first. Yeah, so, yeah, and you can just gentle pinch.
Never held a snake before in my life. I've touched one once before, and that was it. I think that was just a step of, doing something a little out of my comfort zone.
Look at you. Perfect. Yeah. He's good. He's just adjusting his mouth.
So that was pretty awesome, and I plan to try some other new things too during this trip.
And you think snakes are rough, right? The one I picked up was soft. Like, touch some silk if you have some on you right now, like your do-rag. It felt like that. A snake felt like that. That's wild.
Towards the end of the day, we met up with Stephanie, a wildlife rehabilitator who works with local birds. Stephanie brought a guest with her, a beautiful black-crowned night heron.
This guy came to us suffering from botulism toxin.
Oh no.
Somebody wants to help me grab him out of here. This guy specifically was found on the side of a pond laying there. He came into the facility, he got fluids, he got pain medications, antibiotics, and within 3-4 weeks, he's popped back up now and he's ready to go.
That's great. All those birds that are in that cypress dome over there, so those are all cypress trees, and they have formed this big bunch of cypress trees that we call a dome, and that's where birds like to go in the evenings and roost. And roosting just means hanging out, chilling with your friends, sleeping. Yeah, it's like a social. Yeah, it's like a social and like a rest thing. There's safety in numbers too, so think about
those birds were not just sitting there. They took 5 packs of Uno from Walmart and just started playing.
Kourtez is a firecracker, and having him on this journey has just brought a smile to my face at every turn.
Honestly, I'm very confident. I think I'm gonna keep my own pace, not really mess up.
I really like the other expeditioners. They're really nice, caring, and compassionate, and they're always there to help me.
I'm feeling great about the rest of the trip. 6 more days. I think we all got it. It was a great first day, and I think it's gonna be an amazing 7.
Hi! Thank you so much for meeting us.
Very nice to meet you.
This is the gang.
My name is Mark Cook. I am an avian ecologist for the South Florida Water Management District. I've set some traps up last night, so hopefully we'll catch some different kind of critters. And if we're lucky, one of these giant salamanders, an Amphiuma or a siren. Yeah. Be prepared, it's actually quite wet out there. We've had a lot of rain, especially in the northern part of the county over the last few months. So it's going to be a sort of a wet slog out there.
Walking through a Florida swamp is like walking back in time. Ferns and cypress trees and bright pink lichen and sawgrass. It's quiet, but at the same time, so packed full of life, you couldn't possibly see it all.
Mark's job is to keep track of the creatures that live in this ecosystem and study how they interact.
When we went through the swamp, I was very interested because I've never seen that type of environment in my life before, and I did not expect it to be in Florida.
Kiana at first was a little quiet. I think she maybe was probably the one who'd spent the least time in the outdoors.
I've had an okay relationship with nature. Like, I enjoyed keeping the world safe and clean. I had a rough relationship with certain things like beetles and roaches.
Honestly, she has impressed me so much. There's been a lot of challenges, and she has just steadfastly pushed through all of them.
All right, so guys, let's go now have a look at some of these traps and see what we've got. Maybe if one of you could just hold that steady, and then I'm going to grab the trap. Oh, you got some stuff in there. You've got the jackpot. All right. This is the giant salamanders I was talking about. This is called a two-toed Amphiuma, and we know that because it's got very small legs. These are really secretive. We only really find them in traps. Yeah, you can touch it. Just try touching the rear end of it. Yeah. I mean, no one really even gets to see these things. They're incredibly, I can't pick it up very well. They're incredibly slimy.
The two-toed Amphiuma is an amphibian. Its eyes are almost useless. They really feel around with sensory organs on the front of their face, little sensory pits.
Yeah, it was fun going out with Mark, seeing the Amphiuma. He had to put out bait, and then all the fish and the beetles got into it. One would have 5, 6 fish, and then another one would just have 20 chilling in there.
Unless we had put these traps out, we never would have seen.
Most people have don't even know these things exist.
You can touch the back of its tail. All these small fish and invertebrates eat even smaller creatures in the marsh. Then they become food for birds like the black-crowned night heron we saw last night.
They can live for many, many years. I think 15 years or something. Yeah. They're super slippery.
Nothing is cooler than a cryptic swamp critter. Getting to share that with the students, I think that will remain for me one of the top highlights of the trip.
Tonight I'm feeling great. I'm feeling very focused, very excited. I've already learned a lot of new stuff. My brain's full, keeping it full. Just how I like it.
I think I was more excited about paddling down the Loxahatchee than anything else on the trip. I love the swamp, and from everything I'd heard, this was going to be one of those places that feels absolutely prehistoric.
I was kind of nervous about kayaking because I never went kayaking before.
It was a day full of teamwork. We had to portage, which means pick up or carry our kayaks over downed trees and downed logs and over 2 different dams.
Yeah, that was a struggle, but it was really fun and it was a great experience.
Without teamwork, this wild and scenic river would look completely different. Dozens of organizations have come together to preserve this place. It's a beautiful example of what can happen when people care enough and step up and protect wild spaces.
Yeah, I did like the feeling of it being in the river, being with those alligators. It's a little Jurassic Parky out there. You think a dinosaur might get you, you know?
People love to create barriers and divide the world into little categories, but that's not how nature works. In Florida, water ties everything together. If you follow the water long enough, you'll see it for yourself.
I did not know we had this many wild ecosystems. Today we kayaked for 3 miles and we watched all the plants change from like freshwater trees to like these mangroves, and we watched that gradient.
As you paddle down the river, the cypress trees thin out, and the last ones you see are just skeletons in the salt water. As we divert more fresh water for drinking and irrigation, the saltwater boundary pushes further upstream. One of the rarest environments we saw was Florida scrub, which depends on fire for its existence.
We do prescribed fire in the park and in other natural areas to mimic the role that natural lightning fire has. It's much safer for us to control the conditions versus having a lightning strike, a wildfire. This isn't a demonstration. This is a real fire. It's windy. You know, anything can happen. You guys ready to see some prescribed fire? See what it looks like?
I would never really think of being a burner. I thought of being a firefighter at once, but not someone who would start a fire.
See a really big one over there.
You guys out of the smoke?
I am a little bit of pyromaniac myself. Seeing fire is a cool thing, and seeing it in such quantity, scale, and so controlled instead of just lighting it and walking away is super cool. I would pay to see that be done or want to work that job for a little bit.
So this is a drip torch. This is what they use to light the fire. So that's the idea. And then you can light your drip torch. And now you can pour fire, basically.
Whoa,
You can easily control it, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
Holy crow, bro. Have you seen this prescribed burn? Seeing that was awesome.
It was wild watching the palmettos just burst into flames, knowing that even as the fire was consuming these plants, that it was actually bringing life back to the scrub.
I already knew that. That was an ecosystem that existed that was meant to burn. I learned about that in class, but actually seeing it, learning about the palmettos that secrete wax that makes it more flammable, I'll never forget now. It's cemented.
One of the big reasons why they burn the scrub in Jonathan Dickinson is to maintain habitat for an endemic, incredibly special bird species, the Florida scrub jay.
All right. First Florida scrub jay.
That's literally the first scrub I've ever seen. I'm dying. They just come right up.
Yeah.
Like they don't even care.
And you know how most birds, they'd be okay with you watching from a distance? Scrub jays, they'll walk up 2-3 feet away from you and wonder what you are doing. They are curious, which makes me think they're the scientists of the bird kingdom.
We ended up finding 6 scrub jays. It was a little family and they're very friendly and they came up to us and it was so much fun.
When it comes to burns, like y'all just came from, like one of the post products will be these big snags. And so that's like really important for sentinels.
If the scrub doesn't burn, it gets so dense that the jays can't see their predators. And a lot of plants out here depend on fire for their seeds to germinate. For this ecosystem, fire isn't a natural disaster. It's a life force.
I feel like the students are gaining confidence every day in this trip. I see them being willing to ask questions, strike out on their own.
So before, I was actually worried I wouldn't be able to keep up, you know? I still have that big boy anxiety.
I got to learn so many new things today. It was so much fun and I feel way more confident than I did in the beginning of the expedition for sure.
Being out here has just made me so very happy. Everything's so exciting and amazing. It doesn't even come to mind whether I can do something or whether I can't. You know, you just do it.
Truly, the place that surprised me the most was coming out of the Wild and Scenic Loxahatchee into that crystal clear blue water. I have never seen water that blue in Florida.
The manatee would be my favorite animal so far because they are a literal sea potato, and if you blink they would be like right in front of you and then they would just zoom across. I was astonished at how speedy they were going.
I've never been that close. I sat like in the water and one came up to me. If I reached out my hand, I could have touched it. Looked me right in the eye. Just felt connected, you know, and I also felt like I felt bad. I saw the scars of the motor blades. That's the first thing I noticed.
That afternoon, we had a chance to paddleboard in the estuary, where freshwater and saltwater worlds collide. As we moved along the developed coast, we reflected on what we'd seen, hiking, biking, and floating down Florida's waterways.
After being on this trip, I really got a better understanding of how everything works and how everything in the environment is connected. If you get rid of one species of animal, it's gonna affect all the other animals and the ecosystem.
We literally saw things getting destroyed by development already. A lot of people don't see that perspective.
Walk in there and stay in there for 5 days and you're gonna come out a new person, you know. Be like, hey, don't cut that tree down. Everything has a function and purpose everywhere, no matter what it is.
At the end of the day, we climbed the historic Jupiter Inlet Lighthouse, which has guided ships along the Florida coast since 1860. From the top, we had a clear view all the way to the ocean, We could finally see our goal, but we could also look back to where our journey began, far past the treetops in the distance. Traveling these wild waterways under your own power makes you feel like you're part of something bigger. But we certainly weren't the first people to understand the connections in this landscape.
You guys are now at the end of the Loxahatchee River. You have traveled the same routes that the Native Americans have traveled probably for the last 12,000 years. You started in the Everglades, you came up into the Loxahatchee Slough, and then now you're at the mouth of the Loxahatchee River. You've gone by thousands and thousands of years of history. So we are on top of the Shoal Mound at Du Bois Park. This whole site is about 6,000 years old.
Would they stand up on the hill to see if there's like intruders?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you don't spend...
After experiencing the biology of this ecosystem for the last 5 days, learning about the human history makes this place seem even more special.
People don't realize how deep our history is with sites like this.
Listening to Chris, I wondered how the native people who first traveled these waterways would feel about the ways we've transformed the landscape. They stewarded this place for thousands of years, but it took us less than a century to change it completely. So little is left that they would recognize, and so few of us care about it. It put our whole trip in perspective. By day 6, we were in the home stretch. After 5 days in the wilderness, we arrived in urban Palm Beach County and rode our bikes down US 1 to Lake Worth Lagoon.
It was such an amazing feeling to get off of our bikes and walk through MacArthur Beach and see the ocean.
The Palm Beaches are incredibly fortunate to have this gorgeous wild estuary right next to their urban center.
After traveling around 60 miles and finally reaching the ocean, it's like we finally reached like a goal.
All we have left to do is paddle 4 miles tomorrow. 4 miles, and we're done.
I can't believe that we ended up here. I never thought I could do something like that.
I'm gonna be like, yeah, I did this, this, and this. And then they're gonna be like, whoa, that's crazy. And I'm gonna be like, I know. Just the average life of me, Kourtez. Ain't nothing much. Ain't too much. Oh, ain't nothing much.
I proved myself wrong, so this just goes to show me that I can do anything that I put my mind to.
I'm kind of sad that it's ending tomorrow. I'm gonna miss this, yo.
Young people in Florida are inheriting this wilderness. These public lands have been set aside specifically for them to explore and enjoy, and they're going to decide what happens to them.
It's crazy that this is literally in my own backyard, and I have never been educated on things like this.
I've learned stuff out here that a whole year of school wouldn't teach me, Go outside of your comfort zone and see what's out there. Go look literally in your backyard. A lot of people see Florida as the beach, but it's way more. When you march your way through and you have open eyes and you're watching the things change, you're like, oh, this swamp affects scrub, and this scrub affects the Loxahatchee River. This Loxahatchee River affects the inlet, and this inlet affects the ocean. We still need these ecosystems. We can't just live, in our concrete buildings and think everything's okay and just get Gatorade shipped to our house. Like, it doesn't just work like that,
When the expedition is over, I would definitely go back to certain places. For example, the Loxahatchee Slough. When I was there, I was thinking about how my best friend Jenna would like it there, So I would definitely go down there with her and take Instagram pictures and go camping with my mom.
I would definitely tell my friends, did you know by this road that you drive by every day, there's literally thousands of birds and everything just chilling in that area? And they'd be like, no, I didn't even know that either. I thought it would just be, a river.
I've almost already started making plans for like next weekend to come back with some friends or my family.
Being able to come back to these wild areas isn't something we can take for granted. Only a fragment of wilderness is left, and the ecosystems that remain depend on each other to stay healthy. It's one thing to hear about the wilderness from a science educator like me, but nothing makes you care more about wild spaces than seeing them for yourself. Sharing these wild areas with Noah, Kourtez, and Kiana has been a dream come true. And if their classmates care as much about the wilderness as they do, that gives me hope for Florida's future.